And people said Cyberstorm Access wasn't going to be that good of a set for the market. Don't beg the 30% of you that have not smashed the ever-living crap out of that subscribe button. Smash it so you guys don't miss out. More Oz content. Cyberstorm Access has actually kind of gone crazy. I'll go way more in depth with how the market is handling things tomorrow morning, as per usual. But there's a lot of things that have actually happened in the market, or at least in terms of cards, that I actually want to talk about. Starting things off here with the Guiding Quem the Virtuous. You know, I didn't think Waifu Tax would strike. You know, Friday when you saw this card on the market, you were at $36, $33. And then as the weekend has genuinely progressed here, you've seen this card actually go up to a $45 price point. But Robbie, the card's a one of. Why in the world is this going up so fast? Well, like I explained previously when we were looking at the market here, a lot of cards tend to do the little oopsie daisy where, oh boy, everything in the set is really, really cheap. Well, if cards tend to be very cheap, guess what? People look at the supply and go, well, that's really good. Supply will start to dwindle, prices will go right back up. And that's what you're seeing right now. A lot of people have a lot of faith right now in this particular build. And I don't think that it's a bad thing that players, you know, want to test out the new stuff. But the Waifu Tax is very, very real. You have a card that bridges the gap for, you know, Dogmatica and alike. So I think that's definitely something that you need to be aware of as well. Also, Lulu Wallace over here has been no exception to the rule either. Shorting out at, you could have got a Lulu Wallace at its low point at about $23 over the weekend. And they've rebounded up to about $40. That's almost doubled in price over 2 days. That's why I mentioned, like, usually Friday night into Saturday night with these new sets tend to be the points in time that you look at these cards and you're like, all right, well, this is kind of a cheap opportunity. I want to go ahead and pick this up. My biggest concern here is Lulu Wallace. I don't know if it's going to maintain that price point because it only in like certain extreme builds that I think do you try to push two of it. A lot of people I think kind of have agreed that, you know, having the one of for the dump with the Nadir Servant, you know, if you're playing that build is usually what you want to do, or, you know, the Grand Gondola, for example, as well. But overall, I don't think that this is, I don't think we're going to see this maintain. I think that there's a lot of hype around this right now. Or, you know, looking at regional data and everything for the weekend, Despia wasn't one of the crazy or higher represented decks. I mean, it still saw play, but the branded community itself is having an argument if they want to play, you know, Lulu Wallace in any sort of capacity, still arguing if, you know, Nadir Servant is the better method of things overall for the course of things. So yeah, that's a really scary thing to really consider here. So kind of keep that in mind. Now, Rollerballer over here. Hi, Rollerballer. Wait a minute, Robbie's talking about Gold Pride. Gold Pride had, on the regional level that I have seen up to the point of this, one regional top. But people are buying out Rollerballer. You know, and even like in the case tournament results that I've seen out of the weekend, which I'll be covering here, even out of all of those results, most of the decks only played like 2 Rollerballer as it was. This wasn't like a 3 of. I think a lot of the hype that players are investing into this is very, very, I don't know. I feel like it's a lot of like, oh my God, we need to pick this up now. You know, like the Pinballer is like an amazing interruption that I can actually deploy on my opponent. I don't think that seeing this $18 to $19 price point on this card is worth it. I think patience needs to occur, and I think whatever hype is being built around this, I mean, the card's good, all right? The ability to make a fusion that literally cannot be responded to is very good, all right? Like, trust me, the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Absolutely loves good cards that can make these particular power cards that give the opponent, you know, unrespondable responses. And that's what you're getting here with Mr. Rollerballer, is that potential until it gets impermed. But heavier hand traps right now are definitely running around in the format. So you got to be at least a little bit aware of that. But we've also had a lot of sub-hype actually building out here with Ringworm. Now, Ringworm has actually kind of maintained its original price point, which is about $10 to $12. very little fluctuation, but it has had a little bit of an uptick. But I mean, you got a free monster here that, as long as you have a face-up non-effect monster, you can special summon it, and then you get to basically start tuning out and climbing all of these particular different ladders. I would keep an eye on this card. I still think that this is one of the most underrated cards in the set, and especially, out of weekend 1 here, where you've seen, a very generic price push down, and you see that little bit of a spin back up here. I think the players are going to be very, very shocked over time here if Ringworm actually takes off in any sort of capacity. Yeah, I give a shout out to, the OCG with all their Bysteel variants and things that they were bringing to the table, in terms of things actually working out. And that's actually kind of what you've been seeing as of late. So keep an eye on Ringworm, that's for sure. Time tiering Morganite. I actually just had a conversation with a Runic player last night telling me that, Robbie, you should play one time tiering Morganite in the deck because it is crazy strong. And, well, I'm going to give some consideration to that. I don't think you can really go wrong with one copy of the card. Yeah, it can show off your hand traps, but I mean, depending on the variant you're playing, it's not going to really matter all of that much. You know what I mean? You have a lot of consideration and things in terms of deck building that you can adjust for and maintain by putting this card in your deck. So I think, honestly, that's pretty good. But I mean, Ledger of the Ledgerman Double Summon, a lot of people have talked this card up, and it has maintained a $4 to $5 price point. Honestly, imagine if the card was a secret rare. You know how many people would have went crazy for that? But because they made it a lower rarity and had that slightly more affordable aspect to it, more and more players are wanting to pick them up, and I think that's a good thing. And then, of course, the Prodigy Wakashi, the Universal Pendulum Scales, the card that makes Super Heavy Samurai viable. The fact that we've seen this card also do the exact same thing as Time Tearing Morganite here, where it's maintaining this $3 to $4 price point, and I do perfectly agree. It seems like it's worth it. Are we going to see this pull a Bysteel though, and go on up? I think a ban list will have the biggest impact on this card, because if we see the best deck in the room get cratered into oblivion, that does open up the door for something like Super Heavy Samurai to kind of be explored more by players. We do have a lot of cards that can actually destroy Super Heavy Samurai in the long run. Thank you, Rainbow Magician. All right, you're one of the best cards out here that we could actually have to have the chance to play against this deck. But, price point aside, you've really got to question a lot of the things that people are really going for here. So they've gone down a little bit, but we'll have to wait and see. Now there's the Droll and Lockbird thing. We are back in the Droll and Lockbird format. If you have not noticed the huge metagame shift out of the weekend, you just have not paid attention to anything whatsoever. All right, Droll and Lockbird is everywhere. All right, and we've seen price points on these shift up, because you bet your butt when you see a hand trap format like this shift, where you're like, oh cool, well Ash might not be as high of a heavy impact right now, but Droll storming right back into the format here just changes literally everything. All right, Super Heavy Samurai has a tough time against Droll. Actually, you probably end their turn if you resolve a Droll. It's usually that devastating. So looking at how the format is going right now, looking at Super Heavy Samurai wanting to search for all these different pendulum scales, actually Droll and locking, oh man, Purely as another example, they can still build a board, but you have high impact cut them off from getting the chance to be able to make those more detrimental boards. And usually choke points like that in the metagame are going to be reasons why you'll see more high impact cards like Droll and Lockbird actually be more impactful. And I mean, we've seen an uptick in Shifter as well. Shifter has also returned back into the fray here. I do think that Shifter isn't going to be as high impact as Droll was, but I mean, we have seen Kashtira actually picking up and playing Dimension Shift again. Honestly, Exo Sister's been picking it up again as well. We haven't really, Shifter hasn't gone up too much in price in comparison to, Droll and Lockbird, but you do have to remember that when you're seeing these two hand traps kind of duke it out in terms of the format favor with whatever, players are trying to optimize their builds for, obviously Dimension Dimension Shifter does a lot of work against a lot of these decks. I mean, a lot. You have so much good value built into Dimension Shifter just to cut off your opponent's graveyard. Like, one whole turn is all both of these hand traps have to give you in order to play the game. And as soon as that happens, you're probably going to be in an amazing position. So, what do you guys think about everything? Please, leave a comment down below. Tell me what you guys think. And I'll see your beautiful faces back here later today, guys. Peace. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.